The teaching of the popes, what does that mean? What is the authority of a pope teaching? A pope can teach in an extraordinary magisterial manner or in an ordinary magisterial manner. A pope may define a dogma or condemn a heresy, binding every single Christian, not only in his conscience and obedience, but by his divine faith. Even in the new code of canon law, this rule has been maintained, believe it or not. Now, what's the difference between extraordinary and ordinary magisterium? The ordinary magisterium is when the Pope, in a non-solemn way, decides on moral issues or teaches theology. He teaches something about the faith. Pius XII, in the 1940s and 50s, was faced with modernist priests and bishops who said, we only have to believe the Pope when he pronounces a dogma. They said we don't have to believe and obey the Pope in the other things. Now, usually mankind has a tendency, just like a pendulum, one extreme to the other. Either it's far right or far left. Either it is beyond what is right or it is not reaching what is right. There are many people in this country who are really downright what should be called papalists. If the Pope tomorrow dyes his hair green, I will do it too. Oh, the Pope can do everything. He is always infallible. He's not infallible unless he claims to be infallible and uses the necessary formula. The Pope has, in order to be infallible, he has to say, by virtue of my apostolic authority, I herewith declare, statute, and define that so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. This is to be held forever by every Catholic, by every single Catholic, under the pain of excommunication. This is to be held forever. Every Catholic must believe it. Pope John Paul II used this formula once in his 19-year career as Pope. When he decided that women cannot be ordained to the priesthood, he said, this is to be, I decide this forever by virtue of my apostolic authority, and this has to be believed by everybody forever. It seems that this was an infallible pronouncement. When the Pope says, I think this and this and this and this happened, then he's just speaking as a private person. Pius XII said in his encyclical Humani Generis concerning some false opinions which threaten to undermine the foundations of Catholic doctrine, in number 20 he says, nor must it be thought that what is expounded in encyclical letters does not of itself demand consent, since in writing such letters the popes do not exercise the supreme power of their teaching authority. So I'll give you the sign where to repeat, where to continue with the text. And generally what is expounded and inculcated in encyclical letters already for other reasons appertains to Catholic doctrine. But if the Supreme Pontiffs in their official documents purposely pass judgment on a matter up to that time under dispute, it is obvious that the matter, according to the mind and will of the same Pontiff, cannot be any longer considered a question open to discussing among theologians. I want to see who dares now, after having heard this, still to say that the Pope cannot bind his successor. In the ordinary magisterium, that means with an encyclical. The Pope says here, in writing such letters, the popes do not exercise the supreme power of their teaching authority. But generally what is expounded and inculcated in encyclical letters already for other reasons appertains to Catholic doctrine. But if the Supreme Pontiffs in their official documents purposely pass judgment on a matter up to that time under dispute, it is obvious that the matter, according to the mind and will of the same pontiffs, cannot be any longer considered a question open to discussion among theologians. When Pope Paul VI wrote Humani Vitae, he did not pronounce a dogma. But no future pope may ever dare to say that artificial contraception is all right. When Pope Pius IX condemned all kinds of heresies in his Syllabus of Errors, he did not proclaim a dogma. But woe unto the Pope who says the contrary. The Pope today says the contrary. So this is the teaching authority. The Pope can bind his successor in many things. Why? There's an old Latin saying, par in parem potestatem non habet. An equal does not have power in an equal. Yes, right. That's why in all things that are left up to the individual Pope to decide, he cannot bind his successor. But when the Pope says, this here from now on has to be considered part of tradition, he doesn't have to say that verbally, literally. He just has to say, we condemn this error, we don't want this to be discussed any longer, and I herewith say that's what it is, or that is what has to be done by all Christians, by all faithful. Then he's making this part of tradition. Now the tradition, tradition does not grow, tradition does not know change. We'll talk about this in the next session. Tradition is something that has been concluded with the death of the last apostle. So the Pope does not add anything to tradition. He just says, this is part of tradition, this always has been part of tradition, and now that he has said that, no successor may say anything to the contrary. Never, ever. When the Pope in 1950 made the Assumption of Our Lady a dogma, again he did not say anything new. The apostles were witnesses to the empty grave. The Church has always believed that Our Lady is in heaven with body and soul. And even before Pius XII proclaimed it a solemn dogma, Pius IX would not have had the right to say, no, this is not true. He would have put himself outside the Church. The popes are absolutely bound to tradition.